Before we get started, I'd like to introduce the panel members. First, we have Mr. Rail Roberts, the Acting Deputy Chief Officer of the Ministry of Investments, Innovation and Social Development. Next to me, I have Ms. Melissa Smith, the Deputy Director of the Needs Assessment Unit, and myself, the Director of the Needs Assessment Unit. Before we commence or start regarding the launch, we'd like to first open with a prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for providing us with your presence today, and please provide the panel members with guidance and knowledge to deliver the message regarding the new launch of this department and provide all the viewers with clarity once this meeting is commenced. This we ask in your name. Amen. Now we'll have a message from the minister regarding this launch.
Thank you for attending this town hall. I thought it was important to deliver this message regarding our overhaul of the financial assistance system to you virtually, so that you can hear the broad vision of what we are trying to achieve. I will make some brief opening remarks just to set things in context. What we are embarking on is a journey to modernize the financial assistance system for the most vulnerable in our community and to assist those who are able transition into the formal economy. Let me say from the outset that this will not be easy. We are taking on a significant undertaking. In this social development space, there had been nearly 6 decades, not 6 years, 6 decades without any material legislative reform. The Poor Persons Relief Act was initially enacted in the 60s with no underlying regulations whatsoever. There has also been no significant or material overhaul from a policy or process perspective in approximately a decade. So will this be easy? No. But it is, in our view, achievable. Achievable with the correct amount of human resources, the correct amount of technological resources, and buy-in from you, the community. Now, it's important to probably pause here to highlight the differing perspectives in the community. On the one hand, through focus groups and other consultations, the ministry sees one perspective from clients or applicants, where we've heard you, that the department doesn't answer the phone, that the system is too slow, that it's non-Caymanians that receive the assistance and not Caymanians, that it's all for people who should be working and the people who genuinely need it aren't receiving services. The documents get lost, is one perspective. On the other hand, we hear another view where, real or perceived, it's that there are people who are on the system that shouldn't be there, that these individuals just need to get up and go to work, that government is spending money that is just going hand over fist in the wrong direction, that there is nobody really watching the budget, that there's no transparency or accountability, is another perspective. So the challenge that the ministry had to embark on is, how do we reconcile these two perspectives and provide a system that can be transparent, accountable, and deliver service swiftly to those who genuinely need it. So let's start with then what is our broad vision. Our vision is to create a thriving community where support is available when it's genuinely needed, where we have in place a financial assistance system that we can all trust and be proud of. Now, we've highlighted those keywords deliberately because that is the two perspectives that we're seeking to reconcile, that the community can trust the system, that it responds and delivers services to those who genuinely need it. And at the same time, we can be proud of it, that it is not a system that is looked at in a negative or adverse light that's not helping, that you know that if you genuinely need the assistance, we're proud to say that we're providing that assistance. One that reflects the values and compassion of our community. Together, we aim to ensure that our assistance programs are transparent, accountable, and able to make a real difference in the lives of those we support. Throughout the rest of the town hall, you will hear, now that you have the vision and the why, you will hear how this will be accomplished in detail. And you'll be giving an opportunity to ask questions on any areas in which you believe require clarification, because I will conclude where I began. It will not be easy. There will have to be adjustments and developments, course corrections along the way. But at a baseline, from all of the data that we have captured, there isn't a stakeholder perspective that is entirely happy with the system as it exists today. So if that is the baseline, with these improvements in legislation, in human resources, in technology, in responsiveness, we must, as a country, get started and get this system to a better place that we can trust and be proud of.
Thank you, Minister, for that message, communicating our vision and what we hope to achieve as a group and as a ministry. I think that the support that we have garnered so far has been great. I think it's very important to understand that the needs assessment unit changing to the Department of Financial Assistance is not just a name change. We're here to make a difference. We're here to make sure that the transition from one department into the other, or the unit into the department, is as smooth as possible. We are here today to explain what that is all about, how that will be, and what is coming. So on October the 10th, 2022, which seems a little while ago now, Parliament passed the Financial Assistance Act. Now you fast forward a year, October 10th, 2023, the regulations and appeals were also passed and accepted. So what we have there is some clear and straightforward rules that were adopted, and these will be displayed on our website about who can get financial assistance and how to apply. If you disagree with a decision from the department, we will have a process in place to review it and make sure that it is fair. You can expect services that focus on unique needs. We're introducing extra support for people and adults with disabilities. If you get financial assistance, you will be able, and you're able to work, you are now going to be required to do so, or do certain things like training or employment or volunteering to contribute to the country. We're introducing an easy-to-use website where you can check for your information and connect quite seamlessly with the department. In order to determine the key policy changes we make, we have had consultation with many people in the community, including those who are currently receiving financial assistance, and even landlords who receive rental assistance from the department. And through these groups, we were able to come up with the regulations, the acts, and the changes that we have proposed. The Financial Assistance Act 2022, defining a household. Now, this has been one of those areas that needed clarity when it came to definition. A household is either one person living alone at an address or two or more people, whether they're related or not, sharing income and living space. We have thought about 3 special situations in the Financial Assistance Regulation in 2023. 1, adults living with their parents can apply for financial help on their own if they're 18 or older. If they have a spouse, partner, or kids, they can apply as a family without their parents if the parents are not applying. Older persons living with their grown children was another area of focus. If they're living with their grown children, they can also be their own household. But that's only if their children aren't applying for financial help. If the older person has a spouse and other dependents, they can separately apply as long as the adult children aren't applying. And the third category was the adults with permanent disabilities who are living with other people, can be a household also of their own. They can also be considered a household of their own, as long as the others in that household are not applying. So these policy changes are, again, a direct result of the focus groups and the stories that we've shared and we've heard. For example, one that we heard is right now, if there's an adult with a disability who's living with their family and their family is working and doesn't need financial assistance, there's no financial assistance for the person with disability either. This will allow the person to apply this new act and regulations for financial assistance on their own and not having to disadvantage the family in which they live. The next thing is who's eligible.
Before we get there, maybe I could interject to maybe give a real example. In that, someone might look at this video and say, well, why would you allow the older person in the home to be assessed on their own? But there'll be very good reasons for that. If, in a real example, you have Johnny, who is the adult child, who has his own family that he's taking care of, and he is able to provide for his family, he might say, well, Minister, there's no point for me to seek financial assistance because I'm okay. Where I am thinking is that Sally, mom, or Nana, I don't have enough to provide for her. But I don't want to go through the entire financial assistance program and give my information when really all we need to do is give help to mom. So what this regulation does is heard that plea and said, okay, let's isolate Nana or Sally in the home, make sure that she can get the assistance that she needs to the exclusion of Johnny and his family, and that way the whole household can thrive.
Correct. We're now moving on to an area that we think needs a lot of clarity, and that who is eligible for financial assistance. Now there's four criteria that make you eligible for financial assistance. The first two, everybody has to meet. First, you have to be Caymanian. Married to a Caymanian, and if you're married to a Caymanian, you have to be living with them for 5 years or more, or you are a guardian of a Caymanian dependent. So the first criteria is that you have to be Caymanian. The second is that you need to be on island for at least 8 out of the last 12 months. So if you have not been on island for 8 out of the last 12 months, you also are not eligible for financial assistance. Now, the other two that are required, Your income and saving as threshold must be lower than certain maximum amounts. We have set these amounts based on how many people are in your household, and we increase the saving limit for households with older persons and adults with disabilities. Finally, there must be more expenses than income in your household. In other words, you have to have a financial shortfall to receive financial assistance. Once we get your application for financial assistance, we'll check to if they meet these criteria, and we will give you an answer within 10 working days of the completed application. But we also know that there is exceptional circumstances. If you are in a crisis, like domestic violence or a disaster, and you don't have any other way to get financial support, you can apply for 1 month of financial assistance. You'll need to show that your situation is an emergency, either with documents or a letter from another organization. If you're in this situation, you won't need to give us all the usual details and information right away, because we want to help you quickly so you can recover and gather your paperwork, because we will still need you to provide that documentation anyway. If you're getting financial assistance but starting working and your income is too high, we can give you an extra month of assistance to make the transition smoother. Right now, it can be challenging for people, and we recognize that, where you receive financial assistance because you've gained employment, you may not qualify for assistance anymore. But then their income does not immediately cover their bills. There's a lag, and it makes it seem easier to stay on financial assistance than to stay working. So this way, we are making the transition to help you maintain your employment, be more secure and permanent in your role, so that you don't need to come back or stay on financial assistance. Because that is our goal, that everyone on financial assistance that they're able to move from being on financial assistance to being a contributing member of society. If someone in your household has a disability that causes extra expenses and a shortfall, even if your household income is higher than the limits, we can still provide financial assistance. I spoke earlier about reconsiderations and appeals. If you don't agree with the decision that we've made, you can ask us to just take another look. You can request a reconsideration for things like the amount of financial assistance that you're receiving. How long can you get that assistance? In any conditions. If we said no to your application for any other reason, you can ask us to take a look. Our compliance team and the director will handle all reconsiderations. If after that you still feel, I don't agree with the reconsideration, you can make an appeal to the decision by going to the Financial Assistance Tribunal. They can change your decision if they think it's necessary. The Financial Assistance Tribunal is a newly created tribunal just to help deal with these issues. The Appeals Tribunal was made up of different people with different expertise. They're here to make sure that your case is handled fairly. There's a chair who's a lawyer with 5 years experience, a deputy chair with 5 years experience in human or social services, a member with 3 years experience in finance, and then 2 other members. We thought that this needed to be this was such an important part of the reimagining of this department that we went through a very fair process in picking these members before they were approved by cabinet. In addition to the categories we already have, we're adding 5 more. Mortgage help, which is part of the housing assistance. This is primarily to help older persons who would otherwise be displaced to be able to get the financial support they need, or those who are temporarily without a job. A one-time rental deposit, which you can take with you when you move. Very important, because we've heard this, where individuals saying they were struggling to rent an apartment because they didn't have a deposit. Well, you now will have a one-time rental deposit that will follow you. But it's important that you take care of the place you rent so that the deposit will follow you, because if you lose it, there's no more for you to get when it comes to rental deposits. We've also implemented support for internet, transportation, and phone services to help you find work, to remove that barrier, and to also help our older persons continue to stay connected. An increase in long-term financial assistance, which started in August. Higher limits for accommodation and help with electricity, water, and food based on your household size. We're making these changes to better help you, the community, and make financial assistance more accessible for everyone who needs it. All of these changes that I've spoken about are based on what we heard in the focus groups to ensure that people's basic needs are met, to get people who are able to get off of financial assistance off. I have just gone through a lot of the key policy changes that you're expected to see once we launch. I have the acting deputy director of the needs assessment unit here with me to take you through what it would look like operationally. What is it that you will see and feel as we launch moving forward?
Just before we get there, if I could just recap a couple of points that I think is important and bear repeating. The appeals tribunal that the acting deputy chief officer mentioned in terms of a fair process meant, i.e., it was non-political. The ministry sent out advertisements as if it was just an ordinary job. Those who responded were then vetted, interviewed, and the ministry made a decision, which then cabinet honored and did not change. So it was a non-political process. And then over on the new services, this is really, really crucial, because not only did they come out of the focus groups, we've also were part of a pilot in which we tested this with unemployed persons, particularly those who were single parents. And having the ability to introduce a service that allowed access to internet, to phone, and transportation really remove the barriers for the person who says, I'm not someone who doesn't want to work. I'm telling you that these are the barriers that prevent me from working. We've heard that and say, okay, let us introduce a new set of services to let you overcome those barriers and transition you to a state of self-sufficiency.
Thank you. And good day to our online viewers. We will now review the operational aspect for the Department of Financial Assistance. Currently, persons are able to submit applications either in person, via the email, or through the online application portal. However, when the legislation commences, we will be accepting applications through the DFA, or Department of Financial Assistance, online portal. If someone is unable to submit the application through the portal, they will be able to come into our office, either in Grand Cayman or in Cayman Brac, to obtain assistance with submitting the application through the portal. Persons will be able to apply online at the portal, which will be accessible through the web link dfa.gov.ky. And that web page will provide information on how to apply. It will provide the document checklist, or the documents that are required to be submitted with the application. The application and forms will also be available online. and persons will be able to upload additional documents online, as well as to see the status and case details of their application. And one of the things that we would like persons to note is that persons who are currently receiving services through the needs assessment unit, they will not have to reapply to the department once the legislation commences. The services that you are receiving will remain the same. Looking at the application process, I would like to draw your attention to the first sentence on the screen. Complete applications will receive a decision within 10 working days. And this is very important to note. The application must be complete, and that means that it must have all of the required documents in order to confirm citizenship, income and expenses, as well as for the financial assessment to be completed, so that a decision is then able to be made within 10 working days. The applications will be received through the DFA portal, and they will be uploaded into the FAST system. That's the system that we use. Once the application has been submitted, the documents will be checked for completeness based on the individuals in the household, the information on the application form submitted, and the documents that are provided. If the application is incomplete, a notification will be sent to the applicant, and I'll give you an example. If there are 3 persons in the household, 3 birth certificates will be required, 3 passports. If 2 of those persons are employed, then pay slips for the 2 individuals will also be required. However, if the application is submitted and we receive only 1 set of pay slips with that application will be deemed incomplete, and a notification will be sent. The additional set of pay slips, once received, will then complete the application, and we will then be able to process that application. If the application is complete, the FAST system will then conduct an eligibility assessment. And that assessment will be conducted against the 4 eligibility criteria: Caymanian status, residency, deficit, and income and savings, and then the information that is entered. Once the system determines that the information entered meets the eligibility criteria, a recommendation will be made for the application to either be granted or to be refused. Once the system makes a recommendation, a manager will review and check for any variations, and they will make a decision to finalize the approval or the refusal of the application and services. If the application is approved, an officer will be assigned to the case for case management. And I'll give you another example. A person submits an application and requests rent and food. They've indicated that there is no income, there is a deficit or a shortfall, there is a disabled individual in the household, and there is savings of $10,000. The system will make a recommendation to grant the application for services. However, when the manager reviews the document submitted, the bank statement that was uploaded by the applicant shows that there is $100,000 in the savings. The manager can then determine that it very well may have been an entry error, and the application will be refused. On the other hand, an application is submitted by someone who is requesting assistance with rent and food. Again, there is no income, there is a deficit, there's no disability, and there is no savings indicated. The system will make a recommendation for approval of services. The manager will review the system recommendation and then will be able to finalize the approval for the services based on the system recommendation. The service approval that is given is an interim approval, and it will be communicated to the applicant. All of the household members at this time will be required to attend an initial case management meeting within 30 calendar days of the service approval. And if that meeting is not held, the services will be suspended. Looking at the grant of an application. When a grant of an application is completed, that means that a service has been approved. With the first grant, an interim approval is given, This is a temporary approval before the individual conditions are applied and before the case management meeting takes place. An example of an individual condition is where we have two elderly persons who are living with an adult child who is able to work. An application is submitted through to the unit, and a condition for the adult child who is able to work is placed for him or her to register with WORC to participate in training programs or to be seeking employment. The condition that is applied to the individual adult who is able to work is an individual condition. And that person will be required to fulfill that condition in order for the household to receive services once they are operating as a household. The refusal of an application. If an application does not meet the eligibility criteria, it will be refused, and a notification will also be sent through to the applicant. They will be notified that they also have a right to reapply for reconsideration, and they will have a set time to do this. When an application is granted, the applicant will be notified of the approval and the services that they are approved for, and as shown on the screen, the amounts of the services, the duration of the services, any conditions that are attached, the procedure that relates to the payment for those services, and again, their right to apply for a reconsideration. The first 5 points are fairly straightforward, and I will just give some more detail or an example on the right to apply for a reconsideration. If someone submits an application and requests assistance with rent and food, they have a deficit or a shortfall of $1,000 and are approved for food at $600 and rental assistance at $400. Their rent is $1,000, which they are eligible for or to receive. The recipient may request a reconsideration for $1,000 rental assistance instead of $600 for food and $400 toward rent. Once the application is assigned, the initial case management meeting will be held with all adult members of the household, and that is within 30 calendar days. The initial case management meeting will consist of 3 parts. The first part is to confirm the facts of the application. The assigned officer will review the application with the household members to confirm the information submitted is accurate and accurately reflects the household situation and makeup. Part 2 is used to determine the conditions that will need to be attached to the financial assistance. And Part 3 will look at the barriers or the challenges within the household and referrals that need to be made. And it is important to note that case management meetings are able to be held at the home of the applicant, and that is termed as a home visit, or it can take place at the department's office, either in Grand Cayman or Cayman Brac, as well as another organization's office, or by telephone or by video call. We will now look at the conditions that are attached to all households once an application is approved for financial assistance. A condition is something that needs to be done to receive or to continue to receive financial assistance. All members of the household are required to notify the department within 10 working days about a change in circumstance of any household member. For example, if someone loses a job or if someone gains a job, or if someone sells land or receives a pension payout, they are required to notify the department. If someone travels, they are required to notify the department at least 10 working days in advance. So for example, if someone is receiving financial assistance and they are going to Miami for a shopping trip, they are required to notify the department. If someone is going to Miami to receive medical attention, they are required to notify the department of their travel at least 10 working days in advance. All persons are required to provide information or documentation to maintain their financial assistance. So there will be times when additional documents will be requested, and those documents are required to be provided to the unit or to the department. And the fourth household condition is that all persons are required to attend and participate in meetings requested or scheduled. And this will be the continuing case management meetings. During the case management, the assigned officer will meet with the entire household, and they will review the barriers or the challenges, and they will make referrals as necessary. This will lead to persons being required to participate in training programs, and as you follow on the screen, they will also be required to participate in volunteer opportunities or internship and employment opportunities with the overall end goal of transitioning out of the Department of Financial Assistance to full-time employment, and that is where that is possible. Currently, in order to receive an update on the status of an application, applicants are required to call, to visit the office, or to send an email. However, when the legislation commences, a new feature will be available, and that is the MyDFA portal. The MyDFA portal is an improvement over the current system, as the applicant will be able to see the real-time status of their application. Applicants are required to create an e-services account on gov.ky to view their application status and case details, including their assigned officer, the conditions, and the services. And as you can see on the screen, persons will be able to view the application status. Once the application ID, first name, last name, and date of birth are entered, persons will automatically be able to see what the status of their application is, and that will eliminate the individuals from having to come into the office or to call or to send an email. On the screen as well, persons will be able to see the household information. They'll be able to see the officer who is assigned to their case, as well as a representative or the representative information if they have a representative. The household conditions, as well as any individual conditions, and the services, the periods that they're approved for, will also be available. With the creation and the use of an online user account, assigned officers will also be able to communicate with their client, and the applicant or the client will also be able to communicate with their assigned officer. Persons who are existing clients of the unit, if they have active cases, they will be able to link to the DFA portal, and that will be through the web link dfa.gov.ky in order to view the case status and details. Persons will also be able to submit additional documents via the portal, and this will make obtaining and providing information easy and seamless for the applicant or user, as well as for the staff of the Department of Financial Assistance. And just the same way with trying to access or see the status of the application, once the person includes or adds in the application ID, their first name, last name, as well as their date of birth, they will then be able to submit documentation, which will go directly into our system at the department. And we know that this is a lot of change, and it is also a lot of information. However, we are here to support you. We are also asking that applicants or persons who are assisting others to apply support our staff, and to also be cooperative with the new processes and requirements. In order to support you, we have enhanced our current channels of communication and created new channels of communication. On the slide, you will see the channels of support, email and telephone, which we currently have. However, these features will be enhanced by the implementation and use of customer service software to improve the department's service to its clients. FAQs, or frequently asked questions, will continue to be available on the website via the chatbot as well as the web page. There will be a live chat feature, which is a new feature, and this will allow an officer during opening hours who is able to provide you with assistance in real time to be able to answer questions that you have if you go online to our website and you see that an officer is online, that support will be able to be given to you in real time. And the fourth one is the support ticket. This is also a new feature which allows you to open a ticket at any time of the day or night and send in your concern or question to the department. The ticket will be logged and it will be attended to once the department opens, and the contact will be made within the next working day. Thank you.
And before we ask the minister to repeat any overall remarks, I think it's important that you understand that this redevelopment is being looked at across the whole social development sphere. Under the ministry currently, we have the Department of Children and Family Services that we will be looking at, but we're also looking to enhance their technological capacity. We have also looked at the Sunrise Adult Training Center, which also falls under us, and we have plans for a new facility, and we've made interim decisions to assist them so that those individuals that attend Sunrise will also have the ability to partake in other activities. And we've also looked at improving their communication ability. All of this is done through legislation. So the ministry has been working hard at legislation. As I say, we've done the DFA legislation. We're looking at the Children's Act, the Adoption Act, the Older Persons Act is also very much things that we will be looking to address in the first quarter of the coming year. So this is just the first aspect of how we as the Ministry of Investment, Innovation, and Social Development are trying to make sure that we reach everyone out there that needs assistance from our government, from our community, by making sure that the services that we provide reach those that it needs to provide. So with that, I will turn it over to the minister if he has anything else to add for questions.
Folks, he didn't leave very much left for me to cover. But I will say this. One, I want to reiterate a few operational points that the Deputy Director went over, and then add some broad closing remarks. Essentially, what you have heard from the Deputy Director from an operational standpoint is us listening to you again as the applicant or the client to say, put it in real terms. Minister, I can't reach anybody. They don't pick up the phone. Minister, they've lost my documents. Minister, it takes too long for the applications to be determined. You've heard the department's commitment to, which is in legislation, 10 working days. It's a huge commitment by the department, but they have stepped up to try to honor that. New lines of communication, where it's not just email and phone, you're also getting the assigned officer's email and their phone number, that relevant assigned officer's phone number. You now have a live chat in which you'll be able to talk to an officer in real time and a support ticket. In addition to that, with documents now being uploaded into a system that can be centrally tracked, you're now having greater coordination and efficiencies that are being built, so we have heard you again. So I'll close sort of with the broad picture that this is but one avenue in which we are trying to reimagine the entire subject area of social development. We start here because this is the department that gives the direct cash or financial assistance to someone and is the immediate response. But as we begin in earnest to transform this service, as the acting deputy chief has alluded to, we can then turn to other aspects of social development in terms of enhancing our Adoption Act, our Children Act, our Older Persons Act, because it is time and overdue, in my opinion, as Minister for Social Development, for this area to have serious focus, serious legislation, and serious resources dedicated to it so that the community feels a part of the success of the country. Thank you very much for attending this virtual town hall. We hope that you found it useful. God bless you all, and God bless the Cayman Islands.